Hi everybody, welcome to the South Australian Sports Show. Plenty to come on the show, so I hope you can stay with us for the next hour. Claudia Chavez is coming in to join us, South Australian triathlon champion, and a great story, trying to get enough to get together to get to Chicago in September. Hopefully we can help her. Don Smyth, England's oldest living Test cricketer, bowls here in South Australia. We're going to catch up with Don. Libby Hopwood, of course, has been on the front page of the paper this week. She's coming in to join us, have a chat with her. And Mario Borg is our guest tipster this week, so get your pens ready for that. Rob Popplestone away in Sydney at the moment, so I've been joined off the interchange bench, thrown the jacket off. Rocky Butterworth joins me. Rocky, how are you?
Very well, thanks, mate. Good to be here.
Yes, now plenty to talk about. Let's get on with cricket first. Later on, Don, of course, is going to have a chat with us, and we'll find out which side he sits on. But Michael Clarke announced last Sunday he was retiring. Let me ask you this first. Did he make the decision, or do you think he was given just a little bit of a nudge?
Oh, all these things are speculation, aren't they, mate? But you read between the lines with a character like Buff Lehman and the strength of Rod Marsh and the perception of what Clarkie's done over the last couple of years. I don't think he's the most popular character there, so I reckon he might have got a tap on the shoulder to say, do it on your terms or ours, and the terms where you can play the last one, but that's it.
All right, 151 on debut, 320 was his highest score at the SCG. He's the fourth highest run getter of all time. He skippered Australia to the One-Day World Cup. I mean, currently he's averaging 16.7 through this Test series, and often you're just remembered for your last innings. How do you remember Michael Clarke?
Oh, look, mate, he's going to have a reputation as big as those blokes in terms of his cricket ability. You know, he came onto the scene, he had 151 in his first Test. So the bloke can play, and he could bowl a bit as well. So to me, yeah, he's going to be remembered as a terrific cricketer. Is he going to be remembered as a terrific captain? Maybe not.
All right, there seems to be a fair bit of a swell behind that. Not a good captain. He seemed to be more about me than the baggy green. Previous captains, let me ask you, the last 10 captains, Ian Chappell, was he more about the team than himself?
Absolutely.
Greg Chappell?
Same.
Kim Hughes?
Same.
Graham Yallop?
He's the interesting one, isn't he? Because he was captain in the World Series cricket time. Toughest time in Australian cricket probably, and I reckon he led the team really well because he was almost unknown. He batted 3, was almost an unknown at that stage, just trying to find his way as a Test cricketer really, on the brink, and to come in and captain that side. He did a terrific job as well, so he was all about Australia.
All right, Alan Border?
Speaks for himself, doesn't
Mark Taylor?
Same.
All right, Stephen Waugh?
Same.
Gilchrist?
Yep.
Ricky Ponting, of course, the last one.
Yep.
For some reason, the Australians embraced them. We loved them, all of them. I mean, even when Greg Chappell gave the instruction to bowl the underarm, which everyone, you know, had its moment in there. But if you said, was he a good captain, everyone said, yeah, he was a good captain, always Australia first.
Yep.
Why don't we feel that way about Clarke?
Look, mate, I think that he brought some of it onto himself. He's the new age bloke as well, whereas all those characters you're talking about were salt-of-the-earth Australians who wanted to play cricket for Australia and be with their mates. He's brought something different to it. And I'm not saying he wasn't a good captain on field. You know, the stories you hear, he's a very good strategist on the oval. But it was afterwards, you know, there's the stories when he nicked off early before they sang the song in Sydney in one Test. He came home to break up with Lara Bingle from New Zealand because that was more important than playing for Australia. So there's just a few little things there that probably Australians didn't embrace as much as they would have an Ian Chappell, Ricky Ponting type.
Where does he bat? 3, 4, 5 last Test. Where would you put him?
He'll probably make that decision himself in his last game, mate, and drop himself to 5 where he's got all his hundreds.
All right, been a bit of talk about should wives or girlfriends be on the tour as a distraction or not? What's your view?
My view is, and we're both in the older bracket, but my view is it was always written as it was trouble. It caused difference of opinion between the players, the wives, whatever. It's their workplace. It's only a current thing, and I'm not sure whether today's blokes are more adept at having the distraction of families on tour as what they were in the 70s, 80s. So to me, it could be a good mix if you got it right, but I don't think they do. And if Clarke is driving that, he certainly hasn't got it right. You know, team dinners, team meetings, rushing away from this, the friction between wives and girlfriends, they don't all get on. That gets back to the players. So I just think it causes dissension, and I'm sure it does. Yeah,
look, I think any time you put a group of personalities together, be they blokes or be they women, there's always going to be something's
going to go wrong.
So let's remove that because this is a bit more important right now than sorting out those situations. So, all right, let's get on to the footy, mate. Adelaide, Richmond, Crows 36-point winners. The best game you've seen the Crows play this year?
Probably. Yeah, I think Richmond played a fair role in that, though, mate, with their poor performance, but they were pretty good.
All right, let me ask you this. An area of concern coming into this week's game, 22 points. They've identified now that kicking efficiency, kicking for goals is a problem. I spoke with Walshy early in the year and he said it was a problem. He didn't want to bring it to light because as soon as it becomes a public problem, then it becomes even harder to stop that. Do you sense that's where it's going?
I do, but even our discussions earlier in the year, mate, we talk about where the Crows get their inside 50s, and they're not that deep because Taylor Walker plays a really high half forward, so he's getting his marks and footy around that 60-metre arc. Eddie Betts has got a pocket named after him for a reason. He likes being out wider. So when your footy falls shallow, you're kicking from a whole lot further out. You're kicking from 50, 55 regularly rather than 25, 30. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
All right, they dominated the midfield. They dominated the tackles. That was the big stat against Richmond.
Yep.
If you cruise, you lose. They play Essendon. We've got a couple of Essendon supporters in the audience here, so we want to be a little bit careful. But if you cruise, you lose. We saw Richmond do it. They beat Hawthorn, came in and thought, we've arrived. Is there a nervous moment that Adelaide may think, we did this to Richmond, we can just flow into the game against Essendon?
Right at the moment, you think Essendon have got about 10 minutes of footy left in them. And that is, if they're in the game early, they can hang on for a bit longer. If the Crows go there with the attitude that if we can put our foot in their throat pretty quickly, it should be a no contest. I
want to ask you about Nathan Van Berlo and Tex Walker. Both of them had a year out with injuries. I think they've been playing, considering no athlete anywhere in the world has a year off, comes back and plays, trains, runs, whatever, consistently. I reckon they've both been pretty good, but they've copped a fair bit of criticism over the course of the year. Has it been unfair?
Totally unfair in the case of Walker first up, because high marking strength players, they need the conditioning to get back to where they were. They need the touch and the preparation to have the confidence to go for your marks. That takes time as well. It's not just getting over your injury, it's getting over the mental things that go with it as well. And Van Berlo, well, he's been ridiculed all his career. And he's playing as well as he ever was, and probably should keep his spot in the side too.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be there next year. Sam Jacobs is a key player for Adelaide. If you were coaching Essendon, how would you try and stifle him this weekend?
Give him something to eat before the game that probably didn't agree with his tummy.
That's the best chance?
Well, they've waited 16 weeks to play Jonathan Giles, Essendon, so they haven't got a whole lot of confidence in, but they'll go with him again against Jacobs on the weekend. And Sam should just be way too good for him.
All right, so you're giving it to the Crows?
Absolutely.
All right, let's look at the Power against the Bulldogs. Now, I just want to ask you this. Round 10 this year, Power played the Bulldogs and they won by 38 points. They play them 9 rounds later, lose by 64 points. 102-point turnaround. What happened?
Mentally fragile right now, I would say, Porter. But back then, they were probably still on the cusp of believing that they were fast and took the game on and played with flair and bravery and all that sort of stuff. The Bulldogs have continued on that trend. Etihad Stadium, they play like they're in roller derbies. They just keep on running, whereas Port have gone back into a shell. They're no longer the fast, let's cut through the corridor stuff. They've lost Matthew White for periods. They've lost Polek. They didn't play Kane Mitchell. They haven't got Kane Corns to shut down one of the speedy midfielders. So I reckon they've gone back into their shell. I think they're a bit shell-shocked. So
you reckon it's a myth? I mean, the talk about we're going to try and play with speed, we're going to play brave, we're going to play without fear. Sometimes we've got to play smart.
Yeah.
None of those things are happening right now?
Ask Jay Schultz.
All right, let's talk about Jay Schultz. Does he get a contract? He wants 2 years. Porter's saying 1. Would you re-sign him for 2?
When he gets to his age and you've had a poor year, now let's go back. He was given a lifeline by the Power when Richmond were pretty happy to see the back of him. He's come over here and repaid them with a couple of good seasons of footy when the team's up and flying. This year he's had an ordinary season, hasn't he, really, in terms of what he would like to give. So all of a sudden, you're 29, 30 and you want a 2-year deal because you're at the end of the time. I reckon that you get 1 and prove that you deserve of another year and take the next year when Port gladly give you one because you kicked 55 goals in 2016. If he wants to go down that path of getting a 2-year deal, I'd go home and help him pack his bags.
All right, GWS this weekend, yes or no?
I think GWS will beat them.
All right, we're going to have a chat very shortly with a girl who's South Australian's great triathlete. It's a terrific story. She needs a little bit of assistance to get to Chicago. On the back of Channel 9 signing a $925 million deal for 4 years to cover rugby. Hopefully we can help this lady out. Take a break, stay with us.